Hello, everyone. Buongiorno, I guess. My name is Balin Terkel, and I'm here to talk about Jumper today, about a short, dark comedy. I don't know if you know the joke about the man who goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, "Sir, I've got some bad news, and I've got some even worse news for you." And the man says, "Well, doc, hit me with the worst news." The doctor responds, "Sir, I'm really sorry to tell you, but you've got lung cancer." The man seems appalled, but after a moment he asks, "So, doc, what's the bad news?" And the doctor says, "The bad news is that you've got Alzheimer's." The man seems appalled for a second, but after a while he cheers up, and then he says, "You know, doc, at least it's not cancer." So Jumper, a short, dark comedy, is something like that. It's about a man who goes up to a rooftop to kill himself by jumping, only to get murdered with a gun. It's somewhere between Fargo and Groundhog Day. There's bad news in there, and there's even worse news, but there's irony and there's optimism. And that's why I love this project. I love Jumper because I need these two qualities in my life. I had some really shitty days in my life, and I feel like these two qualities, irony and optimism, were always there for me to help me get through them. But I'll talk about that later on. So, have you ever had a bad day? Like a really horrible day? You know, one of those days when you wake up and you spill coffee in your lap, and then your partner slept on the couch for some reason, and you go into work and your boss tells you that you're gonna get laid off because you did too much overtime. You know, one of those days when you feel like you're either gonna kill someone or just going to end it real fast. So that's the kind of day that our main character Roy is having. He's in his late 50s. He's in a painfully unhappy marriage, and he's been doing the same dull office job for the last 30 years. He's been collecting snow globes for the last few years. He's that, miserable. And he's also carrying a dark secret in his life. So on one of these days, Roy, our main character, he goes up to the rooftop of his office building, and he stands on the ledge with wobbly knees, and he looks down into the abyss, and he thinks, maybe if I jump down, maybe it's all gonna end. So he takes a deep breath and he starts screaming because Fred, this 30-something dude, greets him from behind. Now, Fred is not having a great day either. Fred, he's kind of a loser. He's the kind of guy who thinks, Mission Impossible 2 is a good film. He's in love with the woman of his dreams, but he feels like he cannot really make her happy, so he's under immense pressure. But he's also there for a very particular reason. So Roy, our main character, he tumbles back onto the roof and he rips into Fred for making him miss his moment. And then, almost like a little dance, they start taking turns of who's up on the ledge. So when it's Fred, the younger person, the heartbroken romantic, he's cursing love for making him do such horrible things. But then it's Roy's turn. Roy gets up there, and he's confessing that, he's been a horrible husband because in the last 15 years, Roy has been cheating on his wife with every single woman he could seduce. That's what Roy says. With every single woman he could seduce. Well, that's interesting. And that's the moment when it hits Roy. Probably that's why I forget. Because it hits Roy that, he doesn't have to confess to Fred. He has to confess to his wife. So Roy is unburdened. He steps off the ledge and he turns around, only to face Fred pointing at him with a gun. Because it turns out that Fred is the lover of Roy's wife, and he's there on a mission to make sure that Roy would jump down. Now Roy is panicking, he's crying for his life, he's begging, he doesn't want to jump down anymore. But after a while, he works himself up, he gets really angry, he starts cursing and he starts rambling about his wife, who also happens to be Fred's lover. And he's calling her a cheating, conniving, wrinkled pig, and bam! That's the moment when Fred shoots him between the eyeballs. Because, Fred's a true romantic. He's not there to listen to someone slurring his boo. So, it's an ugly scene, brain flying everywhere. It's not according to the plan. So, Fred throws up. He's really anxious. He pulls the body aside. He tries to hide it behind the vent, but it's too big. So he pulls it back. He's covering the entire floor of the roof in blood. And he's got a gun in his hand, so he places it in Roy's hand, and he thinks that, maybe I can fake a suicide. But he's a curious person, so he picks up Roy's wallet, and he looks at the ID card, and reads the name, and that's when his face starts twitching. And at the same moment, the door to the rooftop opens up, and another gloomy-looking businessman walks out in a suit that's strangely similar to that of Roy. And Fred and this new person, they look at each other with complete disbelief. So Jumper, a short, dark comedy, it's a comedy of errors, but it's, mixed with a pint of blood and tears. When I first read this story, I was working and studying in the US. I was doing 14-hour days every day, 7 days a week, so I was really depressed. But when I read the story, it cheered me up, and I thought that, I could make a raw, gritty comedy, something, playful but dark from this, but with large, beautiful pictures. I could really empathize with Roy because, he's very burnt out, and I was really depressed and burnt out back then, working all the time. But I could also empathize with Fred because, I was kind of caught up in a love triangle, so I could empathize with someone, making stupid mistakes for something they think is love. But the truth is, and I guess that's my bad day story comes in, when I want to make a film, I'm really determined, so I actually gathered the funds and I shot this movie. Well, it was hilarious and it was beautiful. We were there, in the US with my classmates. And on the last day, the producer walked up to me and she was crying, and I also felt like crying because, we finished it. And then she told me that we lost the footage. So the entire footage of the film was gone because someone broke the hard drive. So, I was quite devastated. But then I thought, this is Jumper. It's the fucking irony of life. So I guess joke's on me because I'm here once again, standing on the ledge, ready to jump down and make this film. And just one more thing about the budget. Even though in the brochure it says we've got nothing, we have 15% of the budget, which is a $27,000 film. Sorry, 27,000 euros. And I think we could make it from 20,000, but my producer said we need to aim for higher. We've got a really strong production company behind us, and we're also expecting a potential fund from the Hungarian Film Fund. And 2 more words about me. I graduated in Hungary, and then with a bunch of scholarships, I moved to the US, and I studied there for a few years. And after I went back, I made a couple of short films, adverts, music videos, and my work's been represented at festivals, the TV and exhibitions, stuff like that. Thank you for your attention.
Okay.